Hello, my name is Guilherme Goulart. I am a VP of production here at Simon, which is an abbreviation for Cool Mini or Not. We are a publisher of card games and board games. Gotta say that my favorite part is crafting the experience that a board game is. From the look and feel, from art to the pieces like miniatures or dice or components, and all the way throughout the gameplay where you really are crafting a system for people to get together. I contacted board games, or I first got in touch with board games as a child, like most of us. So I used to play the classics like Monopoly and Risk, Game of Life, and it took a while for me to get into modern board games. It was around 2009, so I got my first order of modern board games. And once you get into board games, there's like this initial amazing moment of like your eyes are opening and you see there's so many games. So I got in contact with Mandarina in the first place through our human resources at Simon. She knew Cris and Mandarina from previous experiences, and at Simon at the time we were looking into offer training for leadership, and I was in a place where I was leading a group of producers, and then it was a good fit to expand my horizons into moving from just creating games and leading a smaller team into getting knowledge of how to deal with larger teams, larger issues and challenges that come. So I worked with Cris for between 2 to 3 months. There was a number of sessions, and I appreciated that she was very clear to me from the beginning, saying there's a number of sessions that is our usual course that we go through. And if more sessions are needed, we'll expand as needed. So it was always very clear. So I got to work with her on a weekly basis for between 2 to 3 months. I think that the things that I felt that changed the most throughout the process have a lot to do with how my own behavior and my own way of interacting with people were. So I think the very first things that Cris helped me to realize are she made me look into what I felt were areas that needed improvement. And I've very much been a person, I don't see a lot of no's, right? I'm a very pragmatical type of person. So if there's a challenge or a request, I more often than not, I jump into action, and I have a tendency to just spring into action and solve it and then move on to the next thing. So one of the things that she helped me a lot was identifying ways where it's important to prioritize tasks over other types of requests. To also realize that there are more tools in my tool set than just spring into action. And so I think the way that I relate to people and that I see the situation from day to day was what changed the most for the better. I think the most impactful lesson I've took from coaching that opened my eyes was the importance of questions. It's not something that I am naturally inclined to do, and throughout the coaching, for me personally, it was important to discover that it's fair and it's very useful for me to raise questions rather than, like I said, spring into action. So many times, and it was great that we discussed on like real life examples. I would bring day-to-day examples that happened on around those days or around those weeks, and we would explore instead of maybe interrupting a meeting and going to deal with something, sort of disrupting two different processes. What if had I stopped and said, hang on, I'm on a meeting, is this important, right? And throughout that process, I started experimenting with that during the coaching, and I was challenged by her to take those concepts and put them to practice. Next day, make a conscious effort to do that this week or tomorrow, and it was very much a lot of back and forth that I had with her, and that sort of slowly but surely sort of expanded my. I now look at like my tool sets when I'm handling issues, and now I'm very conscious of. I can definitely ask why, or is this important? Should it be done now? Is it important that it's done now? Is this more important than that other thing? So not in a challenging way for the other party, but more to really understand where priorities lie and try to understand for both parties whether what's being requested right now makes sense in the larger context. There definitely were moments that were very memorable and very interesting because the timing was also very good. I was able to provide her with very recent feedback because we had done a round feedback at C1 at the time. So I was able to collect honest opinions of people around, about my work, people around who work with me. And so I took those very, very clear examples and worked on them. And then when, towards the ending of the coaching, I took back up on those people. So I made appointments with them to kind of see if they had perceived any change, after 2-3 months, where I was employing different ways to approach things and kind of ask them if they had any changes. I had one particular lunch where I expected to have a lot more conflict. So I kind of prepared myself. I had, arguments ready, and I had points of discussion, whether I needed to go this way or that way. And in preparation also was something that was very helpful to do in advance. And it was great to navigate that. It was great to navigate that because we were able, myself and the other party were able to reach a consensus and reach what I think was a successful outcome for both. And I did have to, employ new approaches. I asked a lot of questions. I tried to show why the way I view important points and provide my point of view. So it was good that it was a situation where tensions were rising. And on that exact moment, the coaching techniques that I acquired were very helpful to navigate that successful outcome. I do think it became easier to navigate similar instances afterwards. Of course, I do fail here and there, new challenges, new variables, and I think everyone is on a journey, right, towards performing better and relating to people better. But the new perception is something that I kept very close to my heart. Realizing there are ways different than my own natural inclination to behave and to interact with people definitely helped me navigate other instances. And to me personally, seeing results in action, you try something new and there's a different outcome, or there's, it does a little better than last time, is a very helpful reinforcement. It becomes tangible, right? It becomes something that you can rely on. So yeah, definitely helped me navigate other similar instances. I definitely think that the process helped me communicate my own values, because during the coaching, I felt like it was very personal. It was very directed to how I see things, to the way that, where do you think a good leader should reach? How should they be? How should they act? There was no guidebook. Like, there's no preconceived idea of where people should be. I felt all the time it was very personal to me. And that helped me strengthen, the core of my values. Kind of, if I think that for example, for myself, I do think that I am the type of leader who's more a sort of like a sports coach, right? I run alongside my partners. I don't distance myself and just assign work. The way that I see myself, I do assign work, and then from time to time I'm checking in. I'm running along the race with them. So it helped me sort through the things that in me I consider valuable to corporate work, and the things that I think are not as much, and strengthen and push those values out. Throughout the whole process, I felt was very tailored to the way I see the corporate life too. I think in my case, it was a bit more of the other way around, in the sense that I was able to draw from my personal life parallels. They're very close, very familiar to me, and employ them in the corporate world. I have a young son, and the relationship of parent and kid, there are things that definitely I can draw from. When you're dealing with conflicts and difficulties, and how can you control situations or assert what you need without breaking respect, without hurting the other person. How can you make the figure? There's only a part of that translates from a parent but relationship into corporate. But a lot of the way that I position myself, a lot of the way that I project myself, were definitely things that I drew from my personal life, and something that again felt very tailored to me, right? It was something that was close at heart, something that works in a different context. I was able to leverage that and bring part of that into the corporate life in a very useful way. I do like to think that learning ways to interact with people and better approach situations also influences other aspects of life. But in my case, I felt it was more, I was able to pull from personal life into corporate life to make those better. I think Mandarina's work impacted positively my leadership skills. Since then, I have grown to lead a larger team, and the tools and skills that I acquired during the coaching process are things that I use today. Even on a larger context, on a larger group, are techniques that I still use them. And it also opened my eyes to always be on the lookout for even more, learning more about leadership. One of the things that Cris helped me a lot as well was pointing me towards coaching professionals that resonate with what the work she does and the work that I do. I've acquired a few people that I follow, that I'm always kind of consuming their content because their way of corporate work resonates with mine. And so it becomes this cycle where I'm eager to learn more, and I see little tidbits, little new things, new ways to see things that I keep feeding into my work. So it created a very positive habit of seeking out leadership knowledge out there. I would say Mandarina's superpower is the ability to, through a very personal approach, identify people's strengths and weaknesses and tailor them to better work on the corporate world. That's how I felt it during the process with me. It was very much about the way that I see my work, my colleagues, my position in the company, and what I felt already worked was fine, and what I felt needed a lot of work. It was very, in a sense, very introspective, the beginning of the process. So that's, I think, the capacity, the ability to really tailor to one's needs and context just made the difference. It was really amazing. One of the most memorable activities throughout my coaching process was that Cris and I developed this habit of, she would ask me to take notes of things that happened during the week, and I would bring those for discussion, and then that we would feed into new things to do during the week. It felt very close. It felt very authentic. I was drawing from experiences during the week, and I was bringing new approaches to those experiences, or very similar experiences. It felt very pragmatical, very close at hand. So it became a fun thing for me. Like I would have a little notepad on the side and kind of take notes during the day. I want to discuss this, and how could I feel this better? I would bring a little list of things to discuss. And then I would walk out with a little list of, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to, try to seek this situation. And you know what? I'll do different than what I normally would. That was fun. I definitely would recommend Mandarina, particularly for leadership training, which is the experience I had. I think it's a great tool to better prepare people to teams. It's a great way to find one's strengths and push them, and even address their weaknesses, so they can be more effective leaders, so they can better understand the way they do things and why they do things, and also connect better with others. I think it's a very important tool for leaders. So through Mandarina, I just want to say a big thank you. It was very, very good to work on, closely with Cris and learn a lot about the professional world and how to deal with the situations that I face from day to day. And, just keep rocking. I hope you guys keep growing and you're able to help more people. It's definitely something that companies, people, leaders everywhere definitely need.